Okay. What a mensch. What a mensch. Yeah. Okay. Da, 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 da. Ba, 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 ba. Ba, 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 Dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Welcome to all of you here today, both virtually in the ether and here in person. And I never get tired of saying this, but it really is a good Shabbat to have a Shabbat. It's been a long week, and I wanted to take a moment to take a moment to invite all of us here to pause and to think about what we're bringing with us from this week into Shabbat, and what we're going to leave behind, quite firmly maybe, in the week that we've just had. What goes with us into a day of the word in Hebrew is menucha, which we might translate as rest, but it's also restoration into a day of fulfillment. So I want to invite all of us here to begin our Shabbat by saying, what's coming in? What are we leaving behind? You can close your eyes with me or just pause and think. And we'll take 20, 30 seconds and just think about what we're letting go and what we're keeping with us. And with that moment to decide what's coming with and what's letting go, I invite us all to begin our Shabbat experience as we call up the Shapiro family to light candles, which can be found on page 120 in the blue brackets in our Siddur.
Amen.
Amen. Please join us for Lechuna Ranana on page 130.
Lechuna Ranana Ladonai Nari Alitzur Yishenu Nekadma Fanav Betoda Mironot Nari Alo Nekadma Fanav Betoda Bismirot Nari Alo.
Page 131.
Shiru Ladonai, Shir Hadash, Shiru Ladonai, Kol Haaretz, Shiru Ladonai, Baruch Shemo, Basru miyom leyom, Yeshuato, Shanu Ladoyim, Kevodo, Bechol ha'amim, Nifleotav.
Or Zor Tzadikim Usharei L'Simcha, Simchot Rimorayis, Behodu Zecher Kodsho. A light is sown for the righteous, radiance for the upright. O you righteous, rejoice in Adonai and acclaim God's holy name.
Page 134.
Zamru l'Adonai Bechino Bechino V'kol zimra Zamru l'Adonai Bechino Bechinor, V'kol zimra, Zamru l'Adonai, Bechinor, Bechinor, V'kol zimra. Zamru l'Adonai Bechinor, Bechinor, V'kol zimra. Sing praise to God with music and melodious song, with trumpets and the blast of the horn. Let us raise a shout of joy to God. On page 136.
Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. עמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום.
As we turn to page 138, we turn to greet Shabbat, to welcome it as a physical presence in our lives, as real as we make it. And as such, as we go through the verses, we turn at the last one. We rise and turn and face the doors of our sanctuary. And we physically greet, we stand and welcome with our presence, the presence of Shabbat, into our lives, as if we were at a wedding. Which is sometimes, by the way, we bring different energies to weddings, and that's okay. But the idea is that wherever we're at, we bring joy. Not the sort of abstract, I better be joyful, but joy for where you're at this evening. Joy for what you can do. Joy from your own place, from your own heart, from your own moment, for the Shabbat that you are about to enter. So with that, I invite us to turn to page 138 for the words of the Chadodi.
לחדותי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לחדותי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. שמעו וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ותפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, לפני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, לפני שבת נקבלה.
לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה. מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה מחשבה תחילה.
לך דודי לקראת קהלה,
פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
מקדש מלך עיר מלוכה, קומי צבי מתוך ההפכה, רב לך שבט בעמק חבכה, וכו יחמול עלייך חמלה.
לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
התנערי מעפר קומי, לבשי בגדי תפארתך עמי. על יד בן ישי ביתך לחמי, קרבה אל נפשי גאלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי. אורי, אורי, שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
לך דודי
לקראת כלה בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת נקבלה. לא תבושי ולא תקלמי, מה תשתוכחי ומה תהמי. בך יחסו עניי עמי, ונבנתה עיר אל תילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת נקבלה.
והיו לנשיסה שועשייך ורחקו קום בבעלייך. יסיס עלייך אלוהייך כמסוס חתן על כלה.
לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת נקבלה. ימין ושמאל תפרוצי ואת אדוני תעריצי. אל יעניש בן פרצי וניסינך ונגילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום עטרת פעלה, גם בשמחה ובסולם. תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת נקבלה.
This moment in our service, I want to encourage us all to take a moment and greet with joy and greet, but I'm going to encourage you to do two things. One is to greet those who are not in your demographic, whatever that may be. Age range is always easiest. Greet those who are not in your, at least age range. Go meet them and ask them what joy they are bringing into Shabbat.
Shir.
Shir liyom ha-Shabbat. Mizmor shir. Shir liyom ha-Shabbat. Mizmor shir. Shir liyom ha-Shabbat. Mizmor shir. Shir liyom ha-Shabbat. Mizmor shir. Shir liyom ha-Shabbat. Mizmor shir. Shir liyom ha-Shabbat.
The Chatzi Kaddish is on page 144.
Yitkadash v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'alma kirchutei v'amlich malchutei.
V'chayechon uvyomechon uvchayet kol Beit Yisrael. Bagala uvizman kari.
Ve'imeru
Amen.
Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevarach. Ve'alam olam me'almaya. Yitbarach ve'yishtabach. Ve'yitpar ve'yituman ve'yitnaseh. Ve'yitadar ve'yitaleh ve'yitalal. Shemei dekudusha brechu. Leila min kol birkata v'shirata. Tushbechata
Emata Damiran Be'alma.
ve'imeru.
Amen.
We rise for Baruch Hu.
You may be seated. On page 148, we have our prayer, Mariva Ravim, noticing the changing of time. And I suspect at this point, some of you could give my iyun or kavanah about this prayer for me, right? That as time changes, as we notice day becoming night, that our Jewish world is built around noticing time changing and marking it and being aware of it. But I also want to notice, maybe for me it feels like the first time we're really celebrating Shabbat in the summer, right? I know I'm still in a sweater. Sweater weather Shabbat will never die. Although I might wearing the sweater in the summer. But I really want to encourage us all to take a moment. It's all about pausing in the moments and noticing the times changing. And so I want to encourage us all to take a moment of pause, of reflection, once more, noticing. If we notice before what we're taking into Shabbat, maybe we notice what we're taking into Shabbat this summer, what we're leaving behind in this season and a season to come. Think of one thing. Bring it to the forefront of your mind. And as we acknowledge time changing, we can say together, Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on the evening. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. On page 150.
Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, Amecha ahavta, Amcha ahavta. Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu lemadeta, otanu lemadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shachvenu u'kumenu nasviach b'chukecha v'nismak b'divrei Toratecha u'v'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed ki hem chayenu ve'orech yameinu uvahem negei yomam v'layla negei yomam v'layla ve'ahavatcha al tasir mimenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Ohev
Amo Yisrael.
Page 152.
Shema
Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Page 154. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levacha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'otecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך, ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך. וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך
למען תזכרו, ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Adonai Elohechem, Emet. Emet, Emunah, Kodot, Bekayam, Aleinu. Please continue silently with a reading on page 156 or the meditation on what is true and trustworthy in our lives. Moshe Miriam, Bnei Israel, Alecha Nushira, Simcha Rabba, Ve'amru, Kulam. Moses, Miriam, and all Israel sang together, lifting their voices joyously. On page 158.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אליהם, נורא תהילות אוסף אליהם. מהלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע הים לפני משה ומרים. זה לי ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ילאי 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 אדוני להקום וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. Page 160. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ושלום מעתה ועד עולם. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים.
On page 162, we read, V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot ha-Shabbat l'dorotam brit olam. It shall be an eternal covenant that the people of Israel shall keep Shabbat. And as modern sage Mordecai Kaplan once mentioned, or Abraham Joshua Heschel, I'm mixing them up. Say, more than the Jewish people have kept Shabbat, Shabbat has kept the Jewish people.
Actually, Achad Ha'am.
Achad Ha'am. It's written in the book. Killing me. I'm in good company. All right, Achad Ha'am has said this. And I wanted to think about, right, if we are to keep Shabbat, how can we be kept by it? And both are an invitation to think about how do our practices, if we opt into it, how do we make sure we get out what we need from our Shabbat? Food for thought. We have a silent Amidah coming up. So with that, on page 164, I invite us all to rise with the psalm that opens our tefillah.
Adonai Sefer Tita Ufi Hilatecha Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise.
Oseh shalom b'mrumav. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'el kol Yisrael, ve'el kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru.
Amen.
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 At this point in our evening, I want to ask us to direct our attention as a community towards those we might hold in our hearts, in our thoughts, who are struggling with illness, malady, infirmary, addiction, those in need of a bit of healing of body or soul. And I'll stand for this. As my eyes go around the room, I want to invite you to share the name aloud of those who you might be thinking of this evening.
Scott Van Gundy, Dave Stahl, Margaret and Larry McGuan, Carol Rosenberg, Abacha Peters, Rich DeBridger, Sandra Goldberger, Elise Musin, Mira Engel, Victoria Spiller, Davida Rosenbaum, Debbie Pink, Lou Alexander, Geis Levy, Judy Sutton, Nadia Fatyanova, Ellen Kashik, Richard Ravish, Bernice Paris, Bernard Zeldau, Brant Kotowski, Howard Beckerman, Elaine Weinberg, Ivor Barber, Don Barnett, Orla Colgan.
I invite us to sing together the words of our tradition, the oldest prayer for healing. El na refanala. Anna, elna, Anna, elna, Anna, elna, Anna, elna, Anna, elna, refanala. Oh, Anna, elna, refanala. Oh, Anna, elna, refanala. Oh, Anna, elna, refanala. Anna, elna, Anna, elna, Anna, elna, Anna, elna, Anna, elna, refanala. Oh, Anna, elna, refanala. Oh, Anna, elna, refanala. Oh, Anna, elna, refanala. So, kind of went overboard. I'm just telling you now. And I want to point out that sometimes when you give a drush, you adapt a lens of what you might call like a strict orthodoxy, right? That you say with a literalness to Torah. And sometimes you give a drush with the idea that the Torah is divinely inspired, which is a word we use in our Reformed tradition a lot, but truth be told, is popularized first by Maimonides several 1,000 years ago. And so for this week's Parsha, I want to do a small thought experiment with you. Because suppose you have a trusted mentor or an advisor, or perhaps you picture them as your childhood rabbi or teacher, or someone you're close to, right? Someone who's had a meaningful, substantive, maybe career or work that's at its end. And suppose a few years ago they said about a task that they said, if you pull this off, it's going to go really well. You will prosper in your endeavors. That's nice, right? It's a warm thought, but it's been a few years. In that case, you may or may not remember it. Now, suppose, however, you'd spoken to them and they said to you, if you mess this up, it's going to go poorly. I mean, your enemies are going to see what will happen to you and they're going to be horrified. I don't know if it matters that they said that to you a few years ago. I think most of us might still be in therapy. And yet, our Parsha, the Chukotai, is kind of like that. In it, we have our first section of Tochacha, of rebuke in the Torah. The second is in Kitavo. I'll reread this sermon in Kitavo, don't worry. And we received Torah from Sinai, right? We received Torah from Sinai, that was in Exodus. There was an intermission, and now, last week, Leviticus 25, right? We were talking about, right? God said to Moses at Sinai, right? And now we're getting stuff from Sinai again. And the text proceeds to enumerate from God via Moses a series of blessings. Should Israel behave, do the things they want, and then a series of just awful curses if they don't behave. It's worth noting, I think, that the section on curses is 4 times longer than the section on blessings. And the curses, by the way, have worried Jews not that Jews needed stuff to worry about, but they've worried Jews for years, right? So that in the Shulchan Aruch, one of our fundamental books of Jewish law, it notes that when you're going to read this section, you don't call up the Torah reader by name. You actually just say the one who wishes, right? And in the Plout, that's our Torah commentary back there, he notes that you do readings like these in a soft voice. And few people really wanted to do it. And in fact, that they used to have to put this reading into the contract of synagogue professionals just to make sure you'd have a laner to read the verses, because they're awful, right? It's not just in modern times that we have this worry, right? A while ago, I was splunking through the book of Daniel, and I noted that he too begs God not to enforce the curses against Israel when Israel violates their oaths. In thinking about these blessings and curses, I'm reminded of the psychologist John Gottman, who himself is actually a rabbi's kid. And he became famous in the 70s for his research on conflict in relationships. Anyone heard of this guy, John Gottman? A few people? Okay, here we go. And specifically, he found that in successful relationships, right, give or take, it depends, but there's about 5 positive statements or interactions for every negative one. Or to extrapolate from this, and I'm extrapolating, and put it another way, the emotional impact on a person of a single negative statement is equivalent to just under 5 positive statements. So when you apply this lens to Bechukotai, right, our parsha, if God had spent just as long talking about blessings and then just as much about curses, we'd still be pretty focused on the curses. If God spent 3 times as long talking about blessings and curses, we'd still be pretty focused on the curses. But for every blessing God offers, there are 4 curses. It's a ridiculously lopsided ratio that implies that whoever was setting this down, divinely inspired or not, they really want to make an impression. We've received a lot of tochacha in this parsha, a lot of rebuke, and I, along with probably countless generations of B'nai Mitzvah children and parents, have wondered, is this really necessary? And then now we're going to add a new complicating factor to this, right? In the Babylonian Talmud, in Tractate Yevamot, we have a word, an idea that expands this. Rabbi Ilya said in the name of Rabbi Elazar, son of Rabbi Shimon, just as it is a mitzvah to say something that will be heeded, so too is it a mitzvah for a person not to say what will not be heeded. And yet, they really want to be heeded here. So I once read at a formative Jewish age an interview with the famous translator Robert Alter. Any of you who don't know Robert Alter, go look him up, he's great. And in it, he described his experience splunking through the book of Daniel. And in the midst of working through the text, he describes this palpable sense of the writer, through the veil of words and thousands of years, the writer of Daniel struggling with the Hebrew. Daniel was written in a time when the vernacular was Aramaic. Hebrew was quite difficult. Can you imagine, word by word, he's unlocking someone's mentality as they write it. I was shocked by this. I thought that was just the coolest thing since sliced bread. Because to sit down with a text and get a sense not just of the writing, but of the human on the other side, to get the impression of a mental state separate from any words themselves, was just amazing. There's an idea I read recently which helps make sense of this, right? And the idea is this: the importance of any statement lies not in what the statement resembles on the surface, but on the states of mind which make the statement more or less probable. I'm going to say it again because that's not the thing we sort of take in every day, right? The import of any statement lies not in what it resembles on the surface, but rather in the states of mind which make that statement more or less likely. Robert Alter is showing me it's possible to read Torah, read text, and not just see what it resembles on the surface, but start to understand the state of mind that generates a text like that. And I say all of this because our 2 portions of rebuke in the Torah, Mechukotai and Kitavo, reveal so much about the state of mind of the person setting them down, be it God or divinely inspired author. It may be a mitzvah for a person not to say what won't be heeded, but the author is going to risk it anyway. They might not have known of Gottman's exact ratio of impact of negative and positive statements, but they probably had an intuitive sense about, of this idea, and they wrote for maximum emotional force anyway. And in some places, you can even sort of sense them like stretching for more curses, for more impact, right? This is a bit from it. It's elaborated a long list of curses, and then it says, "For those of you who remain, I will cast faintness into your hearts as you dwell in the land of your enemies. The sound of a driven leaf shall put you to flight. Fleeing as though from the sword, they shall fall, though no one pursues. With no one pursues, they shall stumble over one another as before the sword. You shall not be able to stand your ground before your enemies." And so on. Did you get the gist, though? That's the nicest part, by the way. I've read. It's really. Why is this the person who set this down? Why are they doing this? We can assume the urgency, in the mental state, the urgency, the anxiety of the writer as they set this down, right? With Moses as their mouthpiece, trying to convince a younger generation of Israelites or readers to faithfully adhere to their ways. The state of mind that comes across is of a person or a generation or someone trying to desperately convey their message and perhaps solidify the legacy of their tradition. And for all these admonitions, by the way, what happened? Yeah, the Israelites did their own thing. Right? Some of them listened, some of them didn't. And kind of thank goodness they didn't, by the way, because we're still here doing our own thing. For all the dire warnings to heed the message, a crucial part of being Jewish is the imperfect adherence to those who have come before. And I would editorially add to that, it's kind of been the key to the continuity in our tradition. We didn't do perfectly as instructed. We innovated in a few places. I bring this up because we live in a modern world full of intergenerational Jewish programming, and it's hard not to look at some of it around us, and no matter the topic, see that it's a reflection of the anxieties of one generation to the next, trying to solidify a legacy, trying to make sure they'll be okay. This isn't really something unique to our time. It's as old as Moses. And there's always been an older Jewish generation hoping to pass on the fruits of their experience and solidify their legacy and make sure that next generation is protected and okay. And there will always be a younger generation who does its own thing. In some ways, though, this is a really pernicious problem. A year ago, I remember opening up the paper to see the headline was about the current Haredi, or ultra-Orthodox education system in New York. And it confirmed some of the conversations I had with my ex-Haredi friends, namely that communities there intentionally bypass all secular education in favor of private curricula, which contain their values, but none of the tools needed to thrive outside of a Haredi community. That community ensured their legacy will continue, but in fact cursed entire generations of young students and froze them into a static Jewish world. Closer to home, I see some of the same anxieties play out in other ways in the Jewish programming and synagogue programming and fundraising and fellowships, even on the pages of J Weekly, our local NorCal Jewish paper. And go look at some of this, not just at the words, but at the state of mind behind them. Go look. Many in our community want to solidify a legacy, want to make sure things are okay, right? But sometimes we don't give the space as we do that to generations of Jews who want to do their own thing. And in some places, that just results in little attendance. In other places, a young generation needs to jump through certain hoops to gain access to their Jewish world. And in the face of that, there are news sites, programs, Facebook pages, right, which have sprung up essentially sometimes in a sweeping rejection of the Jewish world of before. And there are lots of young people in this world who, given the choices surrounding them, simply opt out of Jewish life entirely. But we aren't cursed to this fate. In my case, I am here because an entire generation of Jews before me invested in me. They found me, they taught me, they paid for my education, they gave me opportunities of travel, friendship, meaning. They took me from a biomedical career I was beginning with, frankly, some trepidation, to one that I would wake up generally excited to do. And the Jewish education I received, not the anemic one of my childhood, sorry, Reform movement, but the more robust one of my adulthood, is the legacy I've inherited, Lador Vador. And it happened because I was given both the opportunity to do my own thing and the skills and learning to make the most of it. The author of B'chukotai wrote in their own idiom at their own time, with the same anxieties we have today, probably with their format, by the way, for the historical critics among us, influenced by suzerain vassal treaties. The author, following that format, told us, do these commandments, make the commandments known, offered blessings followed by curses. And today I want to offer us all the same message in hopefully a little bit of updated terms. God spoke to Moses, say to the people, this is what we know of a good life. Take it. For some of us will be unable to continue into this land that you will see. We've learned that things go well this way and not so well this way. Here's all we have to teach. Now go forth into the world and do your own thing. Shabbat shalom.
We're going to continue with the counting of the Omer. So does anybody know what day we're counting? Think from last week if you were here.
It's 7 days more than last week.
Lower. So it's 39, which means we're how many weeks? 5 weeks and 4 days.
Page 570.
Hineni mukhanum zuman, hineni mukhanum zuman, hineni mukhanum zuman, lekayem mitzvot asem. Hineni mukhanum zuman, hineni mukhanum zuman, hineni mukhanum zuman, lekayem mitzvot asem shel sfirat ha'omer.
Let's say in English, I am ready to fulfill the mitzvah of counting the Omer. And please join me in the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, vitzivanu al sfirat ha'omer. Hayom tisha, what did we just say? Chamishim, right? Shloshim, sorry. Tisha shloshim. Yom shahem chamisha shavuot ve'arba'a yamim la'omer. Today is the 39th day, which is 5 weeks and 4 days of the Omer.
Lamed Tet. All right, friends. With our Omer concluded, as we move towards Shavuot, by the way, get excited. Please get excited. It's my favorite holiday. As we move towards Shavuot, by the way, I want to invite those of us who are under the age of Bar Bat B'nai Mitzvah to join us on 586 for the Aleinu and open the Ark. One day I'll say those under 30, and it'll just. You're also welcome if you wish. Wait. Come.
Aleinu leshaveach la'adon hakol, la'tei kidula le'otzeh bereshit, shelo asanu kegoyei haratzot, ve'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, ve'gohor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu.
Page 590. Kakatu b'toratecha. Adonai yimnoch le'olam va'ed,
ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. So we're going to take a moment to remember those who are no longer with us. We're going to begin with the Yortzeit. So if you have a Yortzeit this week, I invite you to rise and share with us who are you remembering.
Please stay standing. I invite you all to stay standing, please.
So for our Yortzeits, we have Alfred Ellenberger, Barbara Kent, Donald Levinson, Harry Schnettman, Jerry Fisher, Kava Levushik, Miriam Altman, Paulina Moldavsky, Pauline Flight-Steigman, Rosetta Katzman, Sarah Deutsch, Yolanda Mehal. And if you are in the first 7 days of mourning, Shiva, please rise and share with us who you are remembering. If you are in the first 30 days, Shloshim, please rise and share with us who you are remembering. If you're in the cycle of mourning, the first year, please rise and share with us who you are remembering.
Thank you.
We remember those who've been taken from us during this past year. Lou Mail, Joseph Ludwig, Irina Greenwald, Bud Billmeyer, Al Herman, Bernie Greenfield, Rocky Flanagan, Pearl Sandelman, Kazuo Shimokawa Fleischman, Carolyn Latween, Carl Simon Burns, Perry France, Tracy Taub, Sherwin Katofsky, Lance Valt, Lillian Sidlow, Gail Frankel, Bruce Roberts, David Sherman, Alfreda Massman, Sally Small, Rabbi Jerry Levy, Judy Schwartz, David Banky, Dr. Steve Taub, Louis Dick, Sung Nguyen, Diane Kalmus, Gary Bronstein, Ilya Rabinovich, Bonnie Epstein, Maheen Bahun Sinai, Guy Iluz, Mark Allen Grubbs, Connie Shine, Rosemarie McGuan, Stanley Rich, Sandy Bame, Jerry Levy, Rosalie Berkowitz, Adrian Friedman, Tripp Richardson, Eleanor Hill, Daniel Knipe, Sandra Koff, Yanoroso Benito, Marcel Cunningham, Madeline Salzman, Kevin Scott, Robert Kilgore.
Please join us for the Mourner's Kaddish, rising in spirit, or literally as is your custom, on page 598. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divrach cherutei ve'amlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam olamei hamaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitrumam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitale v'yitalal shmei d'kudusha b'richu, le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabbanim shamayim, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mrumav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen.
May the memories of your dear ones always be a blessing in your life and to all of your loved ones. Yehei zichram baruch. You may be seated.
I'd like to invite up
Susan Levin.
Susan Levin for announcements.
Just hold it close.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
So,
You have to hold it up. You have to eat the microphone. There you go.
okay. So, as you know, tomorrow morning starts with a cafe, Torah study, and then learning some Torah from Leora. And then we have a full week. It's a time, again, to bring your toothbrush and your nighties and to just hang out at Shir Hadash, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So on Tuesday, I'm going to ask Rabbi Michael to talk about it a little bit, but he's going to be starting an in-person educational class on the Midrash. So it says you're supposed to know how to read the, so what does that mean?
So yeah, there's a Beit Midrash for those who wish. I've got actually one, thank you. Which it means is it's going to be a little bit different than most of our adult education programming. It's a bit of an experiment, but it's about gaining the skills necessary. As opposed to focusing on content, it's about skill building to dive into Jewish tradition. But a bit of a prerequisite for it is learning learning the letters and the vowels. If you're curious, want to know how to do that, you're welcome to talk to me afterwards, and we'd love to see you there. Give it a shot if you think it might match your interest on Tuesday evening.
Okay, Tuesday evening, 7:30, in person only, not on Zoom. And so that's Tuesday.
7:30?
No,
7.
7.
Well,
I think.
we have a mistake over here, so, okay.
We'll clarify.
Mistakes, okay. So Tuesday, 7, in person here. And on Wednesday, so that was Tuesday, then on Wednesday, we have Rosh Chodesh Sivan with the Shir Hadash women, and I don't see Charla here, but you know, Charla's just been accepted at a program to learn maybe chaplaincy
Yes,
work.
chaplaincy.
And she's going to be leading the group, and the theme is getting ready to receive. It sounds like that's right up her alley. And then on Thursday mornings, 8:30, Zoom in your jammies is Perkei Avot, and so you know that's with Rabbi Aaron and Rabbi Nico. Then the big deal happens the week after that. So then another Tuesday and a Friday. So on Tuesday at 5:30, Shavuot, and a whole evening of program. But I wanted to especially highlight that Rabbi Dahlia Marks is going to be here. And the people who went to Israel on that trip, she's just a brilliant creating new liturgy for our time. And I don't think that's what she's going to be talking about, because it says she's going to be talking about secrets of Ruth. But she's an amazing person. So that it will be, yeah.
I think the title changed.
Oh, good.
But
So maybe she'll do some of what she's absolutely brilliant for, But so 5:30 starts the festival, drinks, the children. 6:30 service outside, then classic desserts, which I assume means some more cheesecake and some more cholesterol. And then after desserts, the learning with Rabbi Marks. And then on Friday, Mincha and Yisker services. And so this does a special ceremony after our Yisker service, and the newly engraved names on the memorial wall, and we'll share memories of the people listed there. Okay?
Shabbat Shalom.
Hello? There we
You're
go.
there.
I want to invite up the Shapiro family to join me for Kiddush, which you can find on page 122 in the blue brackets. Thank you. Do you want to do the whole thing, or you want me to start you off and all? Vayera vayivoker yom hashishi, vayechu hashamayim v'haaretz v'chol tzeva'am, vayichal Elohim b'yom hashvi'i melachto asher asa, vayishbot b'yom hashvi'i mikol melachto asher achsa, ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי, ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו, אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. סברי.
לחיים.
ברוך אתה אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם,
בורא פרי הגפן, ברוך אתה אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו, ורצה בנו, בשבת קודשו, באהבה ורצון, הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה בראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר לציון מצרים, כי באנו בחרת, ואותנו קידשת, מכל העמים, בשבת קודשך, באהבה ורצון, הנחלתנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש השבת. לחיים.
Maybe, no, actually, if you could join your family, I want to direct our attention to page 603. If you actually want to say it with me, our concluding benediction, as you stand near, hopefully, your family or your chosen family or someone you're quite fond of. We say to our children or to each other, or perhaps even to our parents, Simcha Elohim k'Ephraim v'Chimenashe, Yisimech Elohim k'Sarah k'Rivka k'Rachel u'Chlea. May God inspire you to be like the loving ancestors of our tradition. And we say as well, Yivarecha Adonai v'Yishmerecha. May you be blessed and may you be kept. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May the light of God shine upon you, and may God be gracious to you always. Yisa Adonai panav elecha. May God's presence shine within you always. Vayisem lecha shalom, and may all your paths be peace. Shalom
Ra Yisrael Avcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Ra Yisrael Avcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rava Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rava Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov b'einecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rava Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rava Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
Shabbat shalom.
With that said, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Please join me out in the foyer for our motzi.
Shabbat shalom.